And how do you know the mics are hot? Because we're starting this and we're starting this. We could do a little like rock and roll Love Boat theme, right? And love,
exciting and new. Come up, we're expecting you. You know what, though? That may not come out right timing-wise, because I noticed yesterday when I was counting down the numbers with Broncos surnames, it sounded perfect as we were recording it. But in the version that went out, it was like one or two numbers off. So that probably came off quite dyspeptic.
Mm-hmm. That is
and
correct.
Off kilter. So how are you?
Day's still punching. It's orange blue today. We're presented by Champ Honda, and you saw the beautiful thumbnail. Did you pick the uncommon t-shirt? I want to know that, by the way, and I'll put it back up just quickly for viewers. Like, it's Sean Payton with a t-shirt that says uncommon. Well, certainly this season has been uncommon for the Denver Broncos.
Actually wasn't intentional. It was just a photo from early in training camp, and I wanted to use a different photo than I'd used before, at least in the last few weeks. Let's face it. We talk about like what photos we use, who we should put on there, and Sean Payton and Russell Wilson are the people that you spotlight that get the most traction in the digital sphere: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, etc. So I've got to add some more photos of Sean Payton to the library next time I pull the camera out, which will probably, I think the next time I'm doing any shooting is going to be before the Jets game coming up.
I was going to say Jets game is probably next up, but Sean Payton saying a lot of interesting things, not for very long. And we're going to hear more this week, Mace, but he's talking about learning about other people. What has this week shown him to learn about himself? Something I brought up on coffee break this morning is like, if you know yourself, you know the universe. And Sean Payton's talking about everybody else. Learn about everybody else. What's he learn about himself this week? It's a humbling week, to be sure. It has to be.
Is it enough to just know yourself and know the universe? I mean, I think that's an interesting thought, but really, I think knowing yourself is just a starting point, right? Like when you're on an airplane and they say, if something happens, put you put the mask on your face before assisting others, right? So, I mean, I don't think you know the universe if you know yourself. I think that's the starting point to knowing the universe, right? That's what you first got to get right. So if you're gonna go and try to fix everything that ails the Broncos here, and ultimately he's the one in charge, he's the alpha and the omega of football decisions. It does start with kind of, I think, turning inward and reflecting a bit. I thought he showed, there were some things he said yesterday, Cecil, that I thought showed signs of that. It was interesting, for example, to hear him reflect that he thought about not showing the film on Monday. Ultimately, he chose to, but that he said he considered just doing the burn the film approach, right? That's
Is
just
that the right move for this team?
Ooh.
I think that's a large conversation. In fact, that could be the whole show. Like, is that the right move to just burn the film? Like, forget it. You're not going to learn anything. You and I've watched this game multiple times now. I really don't have answers. I have ideas, Mace. I'm sure they have ideas, but was showing them the film the right move?
Oh, honestly, I don't know if it's a one-size-fits-all answer for the entire team. I think there are some players for whom the film is going to be educational and helpful. It depends where you are confidence-wise. Like, if you're in a good headspace, I think you'll probably get something out of it. If you're in a bad headspace, and I'm sure that there are some guys in that locker room that aren't in the best headspace right now, professionally speaking, with their jobs and all that, does it do more harm than good? We'll see. That's the thing. And that's what's tough about being a coach, because when you're speaking to the team, you are speaking to a group of people who process things in different ways, right? there isn't a one size fits all. What was it that Bill Parcells used to say, that he would treat players fairly but not equally, right? Because there was an understanding there that what worked for one player, what didn't work for another. I like to use the example of Vinny Testaverde, how he failed massively under the coach that brought Parcells into the NFL and to the Giants. That was Ray Perkins. And there's a lot that Bill Parcells did that was out of the Perkins playbook. But one thing that Bill did differently than Ray was that he tailored the coaching from both his level and from position coaching level to what worked for the players, understanding that some guys need an arm around the shoulder and some guys respond better to a kick in the ass, right?
People are like rubber bands. They're all wound differently. Some people, you got a kick in the ass every day just to get a half-ass effort out of them. Some people, you jump on them one time and they're crushed.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, if you talk about guys in the right headspace, it might have been the younger players, that you would think the younger guys would need to learn more from the film. The younger guys might be in a better headspace. You hear the comments from Garrett Bowles. Like, I've been here for 7 years. We haven't won stuff. I can't say what he said. Potty mouth. But like,
poopy?
Yeah. Poopy mouth. Poop. Why did you say that, Ron? Why'd you say that? Why'd you say that, Garrett Bowles? But I think there's some veterans who are like, can we get a break? Can stuff go our way? And Garrett Bowles works his tail off. And all he's done is lose with the Broncos.
When you work your tail off and you don't get the results at the end of the day, I mean, what ends up happening is that's your reservoir of experiences that you lean on. And this is, honestly, I think this is part of why we've seen things go as they've gone the last couple of games. Things start happening negatively, and it's tough to extricate yourself from that. Because you lean on the past. You don't lean on it, but your brain simply, without realizing it, goes to those past patterns, and you've got to change the you got to change the language in there. You got to change what you visualize when you have a crisis moment. So that's tough. You're talking about 6 consecutive seasons of institutional memory for some of these guys, and it's been losing. And I think Justin Simmons, when you heard him talk after the Washington game, I mean, he sounded just utterly defeated.
Yeah, and we feel for these guys. We feel for the Garrett Bowles and the Justin Simmons who have been here, who have played at Pro Bowl levels, and then it's just not working with this team. So how do they get on the right track offensively? Shall I share some ideas?
Well, first of all, you say on the right track, and I think of Matt Foley. Hey, Matt, how are we going to get on the right track? Well, the Broncos are in a van down by the river right now.
Right. Oh my gosh, he wants to be a writer.
Oh, hey, Dad, I can't see too good. Is that Bill Shakespeare over there? Huh? Well, Matt, we actually encourage him in his writing. Dad, I just wish you could shut your big yapper.
I wish they could find a way to get Jerry Jeudy more involved, continue using Marvin Mims. Sutton's fine. I do feel bad for him for his effort, but offensively, Mace, that's where I'm like, the offense is doing what they need to do. They just can't score 70. Like they can get in the 30s. That's fine. Defensively, we have a much larger conversation, but offensively, it's kind of like, use Mims a little bit more. Jeudy, I'm still in the like, is he healthy or not? Is he healthy? First week, I gave him a pass. Last week, again,
he didn't look all the way.
He didn't look all the way back.
Didn't look all the way back in Miami.
Right.
And where the hamstring issue is going to linger is that he's not going to look as explosive as you'd like. And he doesn't quite look as explosive as the Broncos want him to be, as he can be. So, I mean, I know you're not a baseball guy, but I think of the scene in Moneyball when Art Howe is being informed that he can't play Carlos Pena at first base because Billy Beane, the GM, has traded him to Detroit. like Like, no, the lineup card is still yours. You just can't play Pena. Why not? He plays for Detroit now. And that's where the notion of trades come into play and saying, okay, do we just need to turn the page and get younger players, a different core out there? And a veteran player like Courtland Sutton, who I think still has plenty of value in this league, do you say, okay, this while he's here, it may not work? And this is another thing to consider as well. How long are we talking for the Broncos to be a contender? I mean, realistically, if they rebuild, how long are we looking at?
3 to 5 years.
Okay, which is why, believe it or not, if you start going by that timeline, that's where the conversations about Russell Wilson come in later in the year, even though he's playing well. Russell Wilson's not the problem with this team, okay?
Not at all.
But if you said 3 to 5 years, right? He turns 35 later this season. That means when the team is a contender, you're talking about him being 38, 39, 40. The window does not align. The windows do not align there. Windows plural. And if this team can't get it turned around here, and we're saying, and we do start saying, okay, multi-year rebuild, that's where the hard question about Russell Wilson has to be asked too, even if he is playing well and continues to play as he has. Is he a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? No, but you can find it on my post over on Twitter/X that I put out there. He's definitely very solidly in that second tier of quarterbacks so far this season. Now, granted, the offense needs to do more in the second half. 15 points, 6 of which came on a Hail Mary in the second half for the offense over 3 games. That's not going to cut the mustard at all. But Russell Wilson is doing a great many more things right than wrong. And the other thing is he's very close to his career norms across the board, and in some metrics better than his career norms. And that tells you that what Sean Payton's telling him is working, and it also tells you that Russell Wilson still has some good play left in him. The question is his good play going to align with this team being back to relevance if we are looking at a multi-year rebuild?
Yeah, and the answer is tough for the Broncos. I think a lot of myths are being busted about Wilson this year. Like, he won't listen. Like, he totally will listen.
Yeah.
He was just allowed too much of, runway last year where Nathaniel Hack was like, do whatever you want. Like, no, he listens. He runs the plays as designed. He extends them if he needs to. And he has a shared moment.
Yeah, well, not the shared moment. The shared moment is this. What I was saying is he's been put into a narrower box, right?
Yeah, but it works.
Right. But he's responding to it, right? It's not, oh, Russ, what do you want to do? This, that. It's, no, Russ, we're going to do this, and you're going to stay kind of on the straight line here. We're going to play to your strengths. And you know what? Let's start with like the fact that the deep ball is back for Russell Wilson. It's back in a big way. I mean, there was someone who responded to a post I had on Russell Wilson earlier today and said, oh, he doesn't make the players around him better. I'm like, really? You watched Marvin Mims the last couple of weeks? He's making Marvin into an immediate star. That the play on the post route on Sunday, Russ gets crushed on that. He stands in there, knows the rush is coming, and delivers a letter-perfect strike to Mims downfield. And Mims gets under and makes the play. Okay. You're telling me Russell Wilson isn't making Marvin Mims Jr. better, and he may end up being the alpha of that receiving core very soon? Well, I mean, I'm sorry. That the notion that Russ isn't making people better around him is poppycock. Because we're seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah. More myths being busted by Russell Wilson. And the offense is like, okay, a little more McLaughlin, a little more Mims. Okay. Mm-hmm. The defense is a much larger conversation. Yeah. And on that note, I mean, they play a lot of off ball, and you speak of space, like the Miami Dolphins. There's a space. There's a Neil deGrasse Tyson reference in here somewhere, but there's a lot of space. Michio Kaku, what do you
I
want?
mean,
Like,
we'll go deeper. We'll go back to Carl Sagan. I mean, while we're at it, let's just
let's go all the way
work our
back
way through here, right?
through the cosmos. So for me, maybe a little bit tighter, maybe a little more press bail, maybe something a little bit more aggressive in the secondary wise, where you're not just letting people roam. Now, to do that, you'd have to have your front four playing better, and they're just not. Like, they're not. We love them. They're well paid. They're nice. They're not playing well enough for you to be more aggressive on the back half of your defense.
I noticed you said front four.
Yeah.
Is it going to be back to a front three with two stand-up edges, though, if Josie Jewell misses some time?
Yeah, and that's what we're waiting to see. There's some injury situations, and we'll get to the Bears preview because Justin Fields is banged up. So that's coming a little bit later in the week, probably Friday show. But yeah, you've got to work through now Drew Sanders getting more playing time potentially without Josie Jewell, and then trying to cover for that. Justin Simmons needs to come back. I mean, it's critical for this team to have a player like Simmons back there in that secondary.
It absolutely is. I mean, not that the result of the game, win-loss, would have changed, but are we talking about the Broncos allowing more points than any NFL team since 1966 if Justin Simmons plays? No. Because for starters, they're not giving up a touchdown on the third play of the game. Justin Simmons would have prevented that. He wouldn't have fallen for the banana in the tailpipe.
Right. Which
is basically what Delaren Turner yelled did on that play. Fell for the banana in the tailpipe, followed the crosser. It set up Tyreek Hill. I mean, no one was within 10 yards of Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's nice play design, but look, they took advantage of a guy making his first start when they realized Justin Simmons probably wasn't going to go in that game. Mike McDaniel went to work and found plays to exploit that and they did.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this game. The Delaren Turner yell play, which was early, all he did was make like 2 false steps, and that was it.
That's all it takes.
That was it.
It is so narrow at this level. It's all you have to do.
Yep. He reads something wrong. He goes up a couple steps. Boom! It's behind him. Plays over, touchdown.
Yeah. And the unfortunate thing, even though you've got shaky quarterbacks here in the next couple of games, you have receivers who, if you've got similar play design, are capable of exploiting that in the same way as well. In DJ Moore with Chicago and Garrett Wilson with the Jets, right?
Yeah,
it's in terms of the quality of pass catchers, it's not going to get any easier here.
No, it's not. And your quarterback situation for the Jets might be Trevor Siemian by the time that game gets here.
They have to do that. I mean, actually, you know what? Okay. When you think, all right, we've already seen 70 points on the board. Kobe says lowest point for the Broncos last weekend, guys. Yes. But do you remember the Simpsons movie and Bart's like, this is the worst day of my life. And Homer says, the worst day of your life so far. and I've had that in my head thinking about it because I'm like, okay, what could be worse? Trevor Siemian coming back against the Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett calling plays and the Broncos losing at home.
Yes.
Okay, I think we might have found a new rock bottom if that happened.
I think that's the case. They don't even have to score 70. Like that's 100% the case, and it's kind of a good thing. We'll get into game preview more later in the week, but it's good they're on the road again because I've heard from so many people. I know you have as well. Look at our YouTube comments. Like, people aren't going to go. That's what they say. You come back against Chicago, good game against the Bears, allegedly, then people will show up for that Jets game. But if it was just this and the Bears game was here, I shudder to the thought.
The late Chuck Tanner former manager of the Pirates and the Braves and the White Sox, but most prominently the Pirates took him to the 1979 World Series and won it. Chuck Tanner used to say, quote, "You can have money piled to the ceiling, but the size of your funeral is still going to depend on the weather," unquote. And I think of that because literally if, you talk about, is a Bronco fan going to go to the game or are they going to no-show? It may well depend on when you look out the window on October when is that game? It's October the 8th, I believe, is the Jets game. Look out that window. What do you see? Do you see the sun is out, a beautiful, crisp autumn day at the base of the Rocky Mountains? Oh, good day for football. Let's go. Or do you look out the window and you see gray skies and a cold front has come through? You're going to have to wear a couple of layers, that characteristic hint of winter that we get in Colorado at this time of year or in the next few weeks. And you say, nah, I'm not going. You remember the Rams game? I think it was in 2018, October. And it was not just a hint of winter. It was a full-on haymaker blast of winter.
Right.
And the no-show count was pretty high for that game, understandably so. Who wanted to sit out in 18 degrees in October and watch that team? So that's what I mean. And we're 5 years later. It hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse. The losing seasons have continued to stack like slices of cheese. So
I think I can't say where I saw it, Mace, but you know where I saw it.
Yeah.
One day winter will show up and ask what you've been doing all summer.
Oh yeah, I actually can't say where I saw that, but I've got some of those written down. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got some of those written down as well because I think that's very true. And that's the problem. This is so confounding and frustrating and confusing because I believe in Sean Payton. I know Sean Payton's a good coach. I know he could work well with Russell Wilson. They are working well. I believe in some of these defensive players. I know that they don't have everything that they need, but they're not as bad as they've shown. And that's what's frustrating about this oddly shaped ball is it bounces in ways that you don't predict and cannot see. No one was saying 0-3. No one was saying lose by 50. And even though we say, and Vegas favors the Broncos against the Bears, even though we say they can win the next two, they could also lose the next two.
Yeah. I mean, it's real. Okay. There's a lot of negativity, understandably so, around the Broncos after you lose by 50. Fundamentally, this Broncos team is better than the team that they're going to face on Sunday on the lakefront. Chicago's awful. Chicago hasn't played a close game all year. That's a thing to consider. They have not played a game decided by single digits. Of course, they got blown out by the Chiefs, but they lost by double digits to Tampa Bay. They lost by 18 points to Green Bay with Jordan Love making his third career start, I believe. Yeah.
And they lost to Baker the Baby Maker in Tampa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gary Zimmerman, I know that's not really Gary, but says they cannot beat bad teams at home. What makes you think they can beat one on the road? I would argue that the Chicago Bears are significantly worse than the Raiders and the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
This is a dreadful team, and the other layer of dreadfulness to this team. I mean, you had the stuff, of course, with the defensive coordinator and Alan Williams taking leave. Just the bizarre stuff going down last week. I don't think they're responding to Matt Eberflus, their head coach, at all right now. Chicago is truly a dumpster fire. I mean, as bad as it is in Denver, Chicago's worse right now.
The thing is, and we don't listen to Chicago sports radio, but if we did, the Broncos are the get-right game.
Oh, yeah. That's what they're hoping.
They're thinking. Hey, man, they just lost by 50. We can go out there and beat them. You know, we got Justin Fields. He can pull magic. Now, Fields has to play. He's potentially got a concussion and all that. So we'll watch the injury report. But, that's what Chicago's thinking right now. Not just sports radio, but their team is the get-right game is Denver. They just lost by 50. We got them. We're at home. We can turn, maybe not turn things around, but we can show some bright spots. And that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah. Oh, boy. The last time the Broncos went to Soldier Field back in 2015, it was Brock Osweiler's first start.
Wow. I still say,
Won
and
the
this
game.
did we do what if on this? Like, what if Brock would have stayed? I think it would have
I
been
don't
different
think
for the
we would have.
Broncos. It would have been it would have been different for him.
You could
Like,
argue
things were set up.
You could argue Brock may still be in the league.
Yes.
In some form. I'm not sure he'd be the quarterback in Denver.
But they wouldn't have missed the playoffs for 7 years. I'll tell you that.
Because they probably would have made it in 16.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, I think there are 3 paths that could have gotten the Broncos to the playoffs in 16 and totally changed the trajectory of what followed. Brock Osweiler staying, sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, or trade for Colin Kaepernick in 16. Mm-hmm. If any one of those 3 are the quarterback, I think the Broncos win 11 or 12 games. And who knows? I mean, all of a sudden, and if it's the right 11 or 12, specifically if you beat Kansas City in that overtime game, Thanksgiving weekend that year, oh, by the way, you win the division. You get at least one home game to start the playoffs. Congratulations. I mean, again, changed everything.
Think about how the draft would be different. You wouldn't have drafted Paxton Lynch because you'd had Brock Osweiler. And I talked to Brock a couple of years ago, and, you know, I think he wishes things would be differently as well.
He knows.
With that team and that setup, Brock comes back. You know, you give it the old try. You know, it's the same thing I feel like if Bubby would have played after 33. If it was Bubby instead of Greasy, if it was Osweiler instead of Simeon, like, things could have been different.
I mean, we're not talking about win the Super Bowl, but I mean, with that 99 team, what if they go 9-7 and steal a division title? I believe Seattle won the division that year at 9-7. If you have Bubby in there, you go 9-7. Hey, there you go. You're in good shape. And in 2016, if you go 11-5 or 12-4, Brock Osweiler, changed everything. Changed who you're drafting. Changed your philosophy. Changed the outcome for Brock. And actually, who knows what would have happened in terms of if Gary Kubiak had still left after 2016. Are we talking about the coaching staff being what it was the following year? Probably not, because you're saying that's where you're probably saying, all right, Gary Kubiak is leaving, but we want to kind of keep things status quo around here, right? So, we're gonna have we're gonna keep Rick Dennison. We're gonna Greg Knapp, the late Greg Knapp, is still going to be our quarterback coach, because he works well with Brock Osweiler. The two like each other.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough. You go down that rabbit hole. It's interesting.
It can lead you on several different paths. We have led you to the end of today's program, Mace. We'll get to feeling better tomorrow. We'll both be in that locker room, and it will be interesting.
Jinx.
Interesting. Yeah. You owe me a Coke. Like, I've got some questions, but
you want to ask about tackling. I get the sense.
Yes.
I think I already know what your question's going to be, because one thing about the locker room in the regular season is I like the fact that it gives you the chance to ask a similar question to several different players and get different and get their their opinions. And one thing I think that you're going to ask, and I'm curious to hear the answers as well, is you may ask, I may end up writing about this as well at denversports.com. How do you get tackling right when you can't really practice it? Yeah. It's a mess. Fundamentally, it's a mess. I mean, that's why, I know that there's a lot, you can talk about the effort, whatever. I saw a good amount of effort from a lot of guys. I saw bad execution as well. Tackling. That's the worst tackling game I've ever seen in professional football.
Yeah, it was incredibly bad. We'll see how they turn around, but the locker room will be interesting. And we'll be back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday I'll be going solo. Thursday we'll be together, and Friday we'll be together. So this is our schedule. This is our routine, and here we go. Broncos. He is Andrew Mason. You follow him on socials at Mace Denver. I am at Cecil Lammey, saying OBT is the BFD. We appreciate you all. As always, do the YouTube things. Help us grow our channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And we all thank you very much. He's Mace. I'm Cease. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty,